First contact fallout. The void between the stars hung silent and cold as it had for eons. In this particular sector of space, at the outermost reach of the Xanthari Empire's territory, nothing of significance had occurred for centuries. Until today, Admiral Vexlor stood on the command deck of the Imperial flagship Eternal Dominance, his forearms crossed behind his back in the formal posture of contemplation. His scaled skin reflected the blue glow of the holographic displays surrounding him, each one confirming what should have been impossible. "Magnify Sector 7, he ordered, his voice a deep rumble that carried across the bridge. The display zoomed in, showing a small object moving through an asteroid field with impossible precision. "What am I looking at, Science Officer?" Vexlor demanded. "Have we finally encountered another spacefaring species?" Science Officer Klazera approached, her ceremonial headpiece bobbing as she consulted her data tablet. "The vessel does not match any known configuration, Admiral. Its energy signature is unusual. Our preliminary analysis suggests it originated from the third planet of the yellow star system we cataloged last cycle." "Humans," Vexlor said the word carefully, tasting it as if it were some exotic flavor. "So they've achieved interstellar travel, earlier than our projections indicated." The Xanthari Empire had been monitoring the blue planet called Earth for several decades, watching with mild interest as the primitive species there developed at an alarming rate. The consensus among Imperial scientists had been that humans wouldn't achieve practical interstellar travel for at least another century. "Send the standard Imperial greeting. Let them know whose territory they have entered," Vexlor commanded, "and dispatch a destroyer squadron to escort them to a proper inspection point." What followed over the next 4 hours defied all logical explanation. The human vessel, little more than a scout ship by all appearances, acknowledged the greeting with a brief transmission in perfect Xanthari language. Then it simply disappeared from conventional sensors. "Impossible," roared Commander Drez, tactical officer of the Eternal Dominance. "Nothing can evade our quantum tracking grid." Yet the small ship had done exactly that. When they finally relocated it, the scout was already past their defense line, moving deeper into Imperial space with casual disregard for the most sophisticated military blockade in the known galaxy. "Weapons free," Vexlor ordered, his patience exhausted. "Disable that vessel." The destroyer squadron fired simultaneously, a dozen precisely calculated energy beams converging on the scout's position. For a moment, the bridge crew held their breath. Then disbelief spread across their faces as the small ship performed a series of maneuvers that seemed to bend the very laws of physics, evading every shot with milliseconds to spare. "Admiral," Klazera's voice had taken on a strange tone. Was it fear? "I'm detecting quantum fluctuations around the human vessel. They appear to be predicting our targeting algorithms." "That's absurd," Vexlor snapped. "Our targeting systems utilize random quantum calculations specifically to prevent prediction." "Nevertheless," Klazera insisted, "they're anticipating every firing solution before we execute it." Over the next hours, the situation only grew more alarming. 3 more destroyer squadrons joined the pursuit, along with the Empire's most advanced stealth corvettes. The human scout continued to evade them all, occasionally stopping to seemingly study some aspect of Xanthari technology before moving on. In the Imperial Science Bay, specialists worked frantically to understand what they were witnessing. The scout's hull appeared to be constructed of materials that should have been impossible, absorbing or redirecting energy in ways that violated known physical principles. Its propulsion system left no traditional exhaust signature, instead creating microscopic distortions in space-time itself. "It's as if they're not so much flying through space as negotiating with it," one bewildered scientist explained. By the time the scout had penetrated halfway to the nearest major Xanthari colony world, the situation had been escalated to the Imperial High Command. 12 capital ships formed a blockade that nothing should have been able to penetrate, a wall of firepower capable of reducing a small moon to dust. "This ends now," Vexlor declared, authorized to use the Empire's most classified weapons. Prepare the Singularity Lance. The massive weapon, drawing power directly from an artificial black hole contained in the flagship's core, began to charge. Targeting systems locked onto the small human vessel, which had finally stopped its advance and appeared to be waiting. Fire, Vexlor commanded. The lance discharged, a concentrated stream of exotic particles that twisted the fabric of reality itself. For a brief moment, space between the capital ships and the Scout seemed to fold inward before snapping back with catastrophic force. When the sensors cleared, the Scout remained untouched, surrounded by what appeared to be a bubble of altered space-time that had absorbed or redirected the entire energy discharge. Silence fell over the bridge, broken only by the soft beeping of consoles and the distant hum of the ship's power core. "Admiral," the communications officer finally spoke, voice trembling. "We're receiving a transmission from the human vessel. They're requesting a conversation." The holographic display in the center of the bridge flickered to life, revealing a human figure. It appeared to be female, with dark skin and eyes that reflected starlight. When she spoke, her voice was calm and carried no hint of fear. "Admiral Vexlor of the Xanthari Empire," she began without introduction, somehow knowing exactly who commanded the fleet. "I am Lieutenant Commander Sophia Chen of the United Earth Exploration Corps. I must commend your persistence, though I had hoped for a somewhat warmer welcome." Vexlor stepped forward, drawing himself to his full height. "You have violated Imperial space, evaded lawful attempts to intercept your vessel, and demonstrated hostile intent. Surrender immediately or face complete destruction." The human smiled slightly. "I've demonstrated remarkable restraint, Admiral, not hostility. Had I wished to respond in kind to your attacks, this conversation would be very different." She paused, glancing at something off-screen. "However, time grows short. My mission was simple reconnaissance, to establish contact and evaluate your technological capabilities and cultural disposition." Reconnaissance. Vexlor felt a chill run down his spine. For what purpose? For humanity's expansion into this sector, of course. Chen replied as if stating the obvious. "My scout ship was dispatched to make preliminary contact before the arrival of the main diplomatic fleet." "Scout ship," Klazera whispered, the implications washing over her. "If this is merely a scout." Chen nodded, seeming to hear the unspoken question. "Yes. This vessel represents our standard exploration technology. Nothing particularly special, I'm afraid." Before Vexlor could respond, another officer rushed onto the bridge, face contorted with panic. "Admiral, long-range sensors have detected multiple large vessels entering the system. They've bypassed our outer warning network completely." Chen's expression softened slightly. "Ah, it seems my colleagues have arrived ahead of schedule. I should join them." She inclined her head in what appeared to be a respectful gesture. "Admiral Vexlor, the United Earth diplomatic fleet comes in peace, despite your rather aggressive welcome. I suggest you prepare your leadership for first contact protocols." The transmission ended abruptly, and the scout ship vanished from all sensors simultaneously. Vexlor stood motionless, the full weight of what had just occurred settling over him. If a human scout ship could effortlessly evade their most powerful weapons, what capabilities might their actual warships possess? "Alert the Emperor," he finally said, his voice hollow. Tell him we may have made a grave miscalculation." As the message was dispatched, the Admiral stared out at the stars, wondering how the Empire would adapt to a universe where they were no longer the undisputed technological masters. A universe where humans, creatures they had dismissed as barely worth monitoring, had suddenly revealed themselves to be something far more formidable than anyone had imagined. In the vast emptiness of space, something had fundamentally changed. The balance of power that had sustained the Xanthari Empire for millennia had shifted in a matter of hours, and it had begun with nothing more than a scout. The reckoning. The Imperial Palace on Xanthar Prime had never known such frantic activity. Corridors that had echoed with ceremonial processions for 10,000 years now bustled with military officers, scientific advisors, and diplomatic corps members rushing to emergency meetings. Emperor Vaxor XVI, 20th ruler of the Eternal Dominion, sat rigid on his crystalline throne as Admiral Vexlor delivered his report. "Impossible," the Emperor finally declared, his ceremonial head frills flaring with agitation. "No species could advance so quickly. We observed their primitive aircraft merely 70 cycles ago." "Nevertheless, Majesty," Vexlor replied, keeping his eyes downcast as protocol demanded. "The human fleet has positioned itself at the edge of the Calderas system. 17 vessels, each larger than our heaviest battlecruiser." The Emperor's chief scientific advisor, Grand Theorist Meverin, stepped forward. "The preliminary data from Admiral Vexlor's encounter with the scout ship defies conventional understanding, Your Magnificence. The humans appear to have developed quantum-integrated technology centuries beyond our projections." "Explain," demanded the Emperor. Meverin activated a holographic display showing the human scout ship's movements during the earlier confrontation. "Their technology doesn't simply utilize quantum principles as ours does. It appears to function as a unified quantum system. Where our ships calculate probabilities, theirs seemingly exists in multiple states simultaneously. When our weapons target one potential position, the human vessel simply manifests in another." Whispers spread through the gathered advisors. Such technology had been theorized by Xanthari scientists for centuries, but always deemed impossible to implement. "How many warships can we mobilize?" the Emperor asked, turning to his military chief. High General Drazkor consulted his data slate. "The 3rd and 5th fleets can arrive within 7 cycles, Majesty. Combined with Admiral Vexlor's current forces, that would give us 83 capital ships and their support vessels." "Not enough," Vexlor said quietly, then louder when all eyes turned to him. "Forgive my presumption, Majesty, but if one scout ship could neutralize our most advanced weaponry, 83 ships will make little difference against 17 of their vessels." Silence fell over the throne room. "The human diplomatic fleet has requested a formal meeting," offered First Emissary Talvik, her voice cool and measured. "Their message indicates peaceful intentions, despite our aggressive first contact protocols." The Emperor's inner eyelids flickered rapidly, a sign of deep thought among the Xanthari. "We will meet them," he finally declared. "Prepare the grand reception hall. If we cannot match them in military might, perhaps we can impress them with the weight of our civilization's grandeur." 3 cycles later, Admiral Vexlor stood at rigid attention beside the imperial throne as the massive doors to the grand reception hall swung open. The human delegation entered, walking with confidence across the kilometer-long ceremonial approach to the throne. Vexlor studied them carefully. 5 individuals of varying coloration and physical characteristics, wearing simple but elegant uniforms rather than the ostentatious display expected of diplomats. Their leader, a silver-haired human male who introduced himself as Ambassador Michael Santos, bowed precisely to the correct depth required by Xanthari protocol. Not too deep to suggest submission, but enough to acknowledge respect. "Emperor Vaxor XVI, Santos began in flawless high imperial Xanthari. I bring greetings from Earth and the United Stellar Alliance. We come seeking peaceful relations and cultural exchange." The formal diplomatic dance began, with carefully measured words and traditional expressions of goodwill. Yet beneath the surface pleasantries, everyone present understood the fundamental power imbalance that now existed. It wasn't until the private meeting in the Emperor's strategy chamber that the true conversation began. "Your scout ship displayed capabilities beyond anything we've encountered," the Emperor stated bluntly once the formalities concluded. "We must understand. Do you come as conquerors?" Ambassador Santos smiled slightly. "If conquest were our intention, Emperor, this conversation would be occurring under very different circumstances. Humanity has no desire for imperial expansion. We've had enough of empires in our own history." "Then what do you want?" asked Vexlor, unable to contain himself despite protocol. A human female stepped forward. Lieutenant Commander Sophia Chen, the same officer from the scout ship. Understanding, Admiral. Cooperation. Humanity has learned through bitter experience that isolation leads to stagnation, while diversity drives innovation. The grand theorist Meverin leaned forward. Your technology. The quantum integration principles. How did you achieve stable implementation? Our theories suggested such systems would collapse within nanoseconds. Another human, introduced as Dr. Amara Okafor, Chief Science Officer, responded. Your theories weren't wrong, distinguished theorist. The breakthrough came through biological integration. Human consciousness provides the stabilizing framework for the quantum matrix. The implications stunned the Xanthari scientists present. Their pursuit of technology had always followed a path of mechanical perfection and artificial intelligence. The idea of integrating biological systems as fundamental components rather than merely operators represented a completely orthogonal approach to technological development. The Emperor, sensing the shift in the room, addressed the core concern. These 17 ships, they represent your civilization's military might. Ambassador Santos exchanged glances with his military attaché, who nodded slightly. Emperor Vaxor, Santos said carefully, the vessels currently positioned at the edge of your territory are not military ships. They are our diplomatic and cultural exchange fleet, what you would call our first contact contingent. The silence that followed was profound. I don't understand, said High General Drazkor. If these are not military vessels, where is your defense fleet? The military attaché, introduced as Fleet Admiral Helena Kaczynski, answered. The United Earth Defense Fleet remains in Earth's home system, General. It was deemed unnecessary and potentially provocative to bring military assets to a diplomatic mission. How many ships comprise this defense fleet? Vexlor asked, dreading the answer. Admiral Kaczynski's expression remained neutral. Currently, the UEDF maintains 372 vessels of various classes, though that number fluctuates as older ships are decommissioned and newer models enter service. The number sent ripples of shock through the Xanthari delegation. Their entire Imperial Navy, the pride of their civilization, numbered just over 400 vessels. And these would all possess the same technological advantages demonstrated by your scout? Asked Meverin. Many possess considerably more advanced systems, Kaczynski replied. The scout that made first contact was equipped with our standard exploration package, designed primarily for scientific research rather than military applications. Emperor Vaxor XVI, whose ancestors had conquered 1,000 worlds and subjugated dozens of species, found himself in an unprecedented position. For the first time in Xanthari history, they faced a civilization that could undeniably overwhelm them technologically and militarily. What happens now? He asked simply. Ambassador Santos leaned forward. Now, Emperor, we talk. We learn from each other. Humanity doesn't seek subjects or territories. We seek partners. The galaxy is vast, with challenges and opportunities beyond either of our civilizations alone. You would treat with us as equals. The Emperor couldn't hide his disbelief. When you clearly hold superior power. Chen smiled. That's precisely why, Your Magnificence. In our history, we learned the hard way that true strength comes not from domination but cooperation. The strong protecting the weak until they too become strong. That's how we all advance. Over the next several hours, the humans outlined their proposal. Open trade routes, cultural exchanges, technological sharing in non-military fields, and joint scientific missions. The Xanthari Empire would maintain its sovereignty, but join a growing alliance of spacefaring civilizations, each contributing their unique strengths to common goals. As the meeting concluded, Admiral Vexlor approached Lieutenant Commander Chen. Your scout ship, he said quietly. You could have destroyed my entire fleet. Chen shook her head. That was never our intention, Admiral. But you could have, he insisted. She considered him for a moment. just as you could have welcomed us peacefully rather than firing upon an unknown vessel. The measure of advancement isn't what we can do, Admiral Vexlor. It's what we choose not to do. As the human delegation departed, Emperor Vexor summoned his advisors. "Prepare the announcement to our people," he commanded. "The galaxy has changed, and we must change with it." Later that evening, Vexlor stood on an observation deck, watching as the human diplomatic vessels prepared to depart. Their massive hulls gleamed in the light of Xanthar Prime's 3 moons, engines glowing with energy that defied conventional understanding. "Just a scout," he murmured to himself, remembering his initial dismissal of the small human ship. Their most basic technology outmatched our most advanced weapons. Science Officer Klazera joined him at the viewport. "The Grand Theorist believes it will take us generations to understand even the principles behind their quantum integration systems. And yet they offer to share knowledge with us," Vexlor noted. "Limited knowledge," Klazera corrected. "Non-military applications only." Vexlor nodded. "Prudent. I would do the same in their position." He turned to face her. "The Empire has never known anything but expansion and conquest. Can we adapt to this new reality?" Klazera's head frills rippled thoughtfully. "Perhaps that is the true test the humans present us, Admiral. Not whether we can match their technology, but whether we can evolve beyond our imperial nature." As the human ships disappeared into faster-than-light travel with a flash of light that briefly outshone Xanthar's sun, Vexlor couldn't help but wonder what